Get the Friendo Club set up today and get access to over 700 Going in Raw bonus episodes, our monthly Big Blue predictions challenges, and the ability to ask questions at Going in Raw. We also offer the Steven Larson comic book and exclusive Friendo Club t-shirt. Just hit join here at youtube.com/Steven Larson or go to patreon.com/Steven Larson to sign up. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. On today's episode, we got your rundown of both AEW Dynamite and NXT. But first, it's all a buzz in the wrestling landscape, talking about the Death Rider storyline. And when I say all a buzz, I mean a lot of people got a lot of problems with this thing. And last night's Dynamite, Larson, I don't think really helped to soothe concerns over the creative of the Death Rider story. So today we are here to provide a service, if you will, Larson, a service where we help AEW fix Death Riders. But I guess first, just like it says in the thumbnail, we're going to ask the question, can it be fixed, Larson?
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of fixed. I think it could be improved.
Can it be made good? Can it be made into a storyline where we feel compelled to watch it every week?
You know, I think like a lot of AEW, I think the ingredients are there for something at least that won't lead people to turn the channel. Because I've seen that sentiment now. People who have been AEW fans for the entire existence of the company, but have reached their breaking point with this Death Rider story. And I think if you just move a few things around, provide a little bit clearer direction, I think it's possible. I have some ideas listed here. I don't know if you actually took notes on any ideas, but I'm going to start throwing stuff out.
Well, First up, let's, I guess, do a little bit of a deeper dive into the problem. I think that'd probably be better.
Where to start? All right.
Well, hold on. I have a tweet here.
Oh, yeah, I saw those. Yeah.
Okay. This is an actual timeline of the Death Riders kind of issues. I found this on the Twitter from Lizzie Flanagan, and it's like a notes app. It's a notes app situation. Lizzie says, the Death Riders, how did we get here? I think it's a bit of a death by 1,000 paper cut situation. Week by week, Moxley's credibility as a tyrannical heel was chipped away. I laid out some of these paper cuts in this notes app post, lol. And I love this because it makes my job a lot easier. So shout out to Lizzie for getting all this down. But as I recounted this, as I looked at this in advance of the episode today, I was like, these are some really good points here. And honestly, when I say points, these are really good points. It's just like laying out what happened. So we start off at Wrestle Dream. You know what? Actually, I'll precede this by talking about kind of the expectations that were laid out to a degree.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of it, yeah.
When Mox showed up, between commentary and his fairly elliptical words, his mysterious words, if you will, made it seem like there was some higher power at play here. You and I had joked about and had speculated on, I don't think without reason, the Shane McMahon thing, which obviously is a thing of the past and never happened.
Yeah. And also at one point, Excalibur literally said on commentary, I'm paraphrasing, is there someone else behind this? Who's behind this all, you know?
Right, exactly, yeah. And they had to walk that one back. That's not abnormal with commentary on AEW. They'll just throw things out there that really have no bearing on the story, and it leads the viewers down a certain path. And then when you realize that was just, I don't know, an off-the-cuff remark without being informed on what's going on with the story.
Yeah.
I still think, and there's been no evidence to suggest this, but Shane was the plan. But anyways, Wrestle Dream. Having Yuta be the one to put the bag over Bryan's head was a mistake. I think it cuts him off from playing a unique and more compelling role in the story. That being one of a pupil torn between ideologies and too scared to stand up to his mentor. This is like the one thing of this that I kind of disagree on. I think having Yuta be the guy.
This is an aspect of the story they teased initially when Death Riders first attacked
That's a good point.
Bryan
Yeah.
Danielson at the end of when was that? All Out.
All Out. Yeah.
Yeah, after Danielson beat Jack Perry, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Right. The 1120 Dynamite. The Death Riders duct taping Orange Cassidy and shoving him around just kind of felt juvenile and strange.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
why
high
they
school
did that.
bullying. It was lame.
1000% agree. This felt like not even high school bullying, but like middle school bullying.
Yeah.
You know, it was. I was like, they don't really seem scary right now. At Full Gear, as Moxley's first challenger, it was crucial for Orange to establish the stakes that come with stepping up to Mox. The match itself was solid, but the weird sprinkling of the cleaning spray on him and the fact he returned like 2 weeks later really undersold what should have been treated as life or death. I think this is one of the best illustrations of the problems with the Death Rider story, is that they don't seem to be affecting much serious damage to the people they're targeting. You would think that like dudes who go around calling themselves Death Riders with plastic bags acting like they're enacting a cutscene from Manhunt, you would think they would come off as like, I don't know, a bit more deadly.
Yeah.
When they do something, like in the case of Bryan, their original target, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
And with them doing that, like that sets such a high bar for what to expect. And then the juvenile shoving around of Orange Cassidy, and then Orange Cassidy coming back. Like I thought for sure, and I think you're on the same page, Mox was going to kill this guy at that pay-per-view, and that didn't happen. He just sort of came right back.
Yeah. And then like when they try to do things that seem like, oh, this is really dangerous, we're going to pour cleaning solution down someone's throat. Well, it's over the top. It's not believable, especially when Orange Cassidy's back like the next week or two.
Yeah.
Like it's like they're trying to go for some level of danger, but it's just not a believable or convincing level of danger, especially when no one sells the after effects of said attacks.
All right, continuing on. December 7th. Mox tells Orange Cassidy that if he tries to confront him again, he's going to, quote, put him on the shelf for a very long time. Orange immediately confronts him and makes it out of this more or less unscathed. This tells us that Mox's word is not to be taken seriously. That's not what you want from your big, bad tyrant heel. I agree 1,000% with that.
1,000%.
World's End. Moxley said that the four-way was all according to his plan, but he still resorted to cheating anyway. The babyfaces teamed up against him at first, but then forgot about him and bickered. This was meant to show character flaws, but ultimately showed a lack of urgency, suggesting Mox is not actually a threat at all. I agree with this because, number one, when he announced, when he challenged for the four-way, it was like, well, they could get this title off him pretty easily, but he was gambling on their own issues, taking them out, and he'd be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But the match itself was a mess and didn't really have clear direction behind it.
In terms of advancing that story, yes, agreed.
Right. The Dynamite from December 11th. Is it December 11th or? Yeah, December 11th. FTR, yeah, because World's End was the end of December, so maybe this is getting things backwards here a little bit. Maybe we're going back here. December 11th, Dynamite, FTR saying they had no problem with the Death Riders. This suggests that the Death Riders are a problem you can ignore, which absolutely kills any sense of urgency. Not to mention, it makes me question FTR's conviction as babyfaces. Mox's character was very fascist-coded, and he killed Bryan, so I don't like FTR saying they had no problem with him. That can be sort of like a catch-all for all the major baby faces. That's one issue we've had with it, is that nobody else seems to give a shit unless they're being targeted.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see here. Next up, January 4th, Collision. Mox tied up the Rock and Roll Express and ultimately answered Ricky Morton's "you don't have the balls to do something" by running away from the Outrunners, even though Death Riders had the numbers advantage. This makes them look weak. And then last week's Collision, the Death Riders had the numbers advantage again and ran away from Hobbs because he no-sold a chair shot. This made them look scared and weak and dumb, to be honest. And notes app. So thanks to Lizzie Flanagan for posting this tweet. We just took it, ran with it, But I think there's a lot of really, really good points.
There is, and I'm sure there's other examples that we could pull from to because initially Mox was positioned as a final boss type figure.
Yes.
And the Death Riders were there to help him enact his vision across AEW. That's what it felt like, at least, as opposed to, hey, I have henchmen that'll help me win matches.
Right.
And when that's the dynamic, the latter, and it's formulaic in terms of how Mox is winning via interference from Death Riders, it undercuts his credibility entirely. Yeah. Now, if they're positioning Mox as a hypocrite, all right, it's just not the most convincing or intriguing thing, especially when so much else around the orbit of the story just isn't really working.
Yeah.
So literally the first thing I have here about how to fix this is correct that. Mox should be winning matches. He should not need help. Death Riders are there to help him see out his vision across AEW.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Mox individually can't bend the rules or cheat, but he should not need help to win matches.
Sure.
Full stop.
So you're saying this shouldn't be like a bloodline situation?
No. Because I think because Mox's character now isn't strong enough to overcome the issues of needing help winning matches. Roman's character was strong enough because there was a lot going on there. I mean, Roman's motivation was so driven by insecurity and worries about betrayal that while it was frustrating at times to see the same formulaic nature play out in the bloodline matches, it made sense.
Sure.
Because, as he could still say, "Oh, I'm the greatest of all time," and disregard the help he needs to win matches because in the end of the day, he won, therefore I'm best. With Mox, it doesn't really work that way because he's like, I'm trying to elevate everybody in AEW to my level. Well, if your level is like, I need help to win matches, then what are you elevating?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's an issue there. Another issue, I thought of this today if you go back to Roman versus Brock at Mania 31.
Okay.
No one was really, I don't think there's a lot of people really excited about that feud. That was one where they were playing tug of war with the title and the go home.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was mocked. It was ridiculous. But at least we had the idea, well, Seth Rollins has that Money in the Bank briefcase. Maybe something will happen there. There was an out to something interesting happening. Right now, with Christian holding that contract, the out is not interesting. Christian has done, he's a going in Raw Hall of Famer, and I think that's deserved, but he hasn't done really his most relevant or interesting work in about a year and a half.
Wow, interesting. AEW. Interesting how you talk about the going in Raw Hall of Famer that you insisted go in.
Hey, at the time, it was well-deserved. He hasn't really done much since then.
That was my entire point about him being in our Hall of Fame. But
he's in. Hall of Fame's closed now. You can't take him out. And so you have his presence around the main event scene. It doesn't really add much intrigue because you're like, all right, if Christian wins the title, yay.
You think Tony Khan thinks of Christian in a much different light than the rest of us do?
Yes. I think Tony Khan holds Christian very high regard. Yes.
You think he thinks of him as like Seth with the briefcase back then?
I think so, but it's not the same element.
This could be True World Order says Christian got into our Hall of Fame. Now he's coasting.
That could be. That could be. So you got to get that contract off Christian. And I could think of at least half a dozen people. But let's say, for example, considering they've had some matches and beef in recent history, and for Hangman to make a lot of sense, I want that contract because I want the title as soon as I can to keep it off Swerve.
Yeah.
Hangman has a match against Christian for the contract, wins. So now you got Hangman in the title orbit with that contract, a much more interesting and dynamic character than Christian at this point. And then you got the element of Swerve wanting to mess with Hangman so he can't cash in. Plus, Ricochet's beefing with Swerve. He can mess with Swerve while Swerve's trying to mess with Hangman.
I think the point you're making right now is probably the one that I feel the most. And it's not even in the specifics, although I like what you're saying. It is, this story is centered around the wrong targets.
Yep.
This entire thing should be to set up AEW with the future we know they have signed. And I'm talking about Swerve, Hangman, Ricochet now, because Ricochet, last night did no favors to anybody on the Ricochet aspect of things.
The segment wasn't good, but I thought the performances were, given the nature of the segment, weren't bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because they're all really good performers. I don't disagree with that, but the actual meat of it, there was no meat. There was nothing, basically nothing happened.
No.
It was silliness, and I'm like, AEW needs a main character, and I know they do have a lot of good pieces, and it's silly to think that they don't. But to have one incredibly short segment centering on one of the more interesting things they have right now, Ricochet and Swerve. Swerve is always one of the most interesting things they have.
Yep.
Centering on that. And meanwhile, we have a 5-day long Jeff Jarrett MJF promo. I started to turn on Jeff Jarrett last night because I'm like, God, is this ever going to end? It was so long. And you gave like Swerve Ricochet 5 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
I mean, basically one action.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think the Death Rider stuff needs to be involving those big names in a constant manner.
Yeah.
The Ospreys, even the Okadas to a degree. There's been, it's been so messy, and it hasn't focused on the right people.
I mean, really, if you would extend this out, if you get Ricochet messing with Swerve, who's messing with Hangman, you can have Osprey messing with Ricochet, and then Kyle Fletcher messing with Osprey, and then Kenny messing with Fletcher. I mean, you can extend this out so it can encompass a lot of people potentially.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, main event. Main event talent who weren't necessarily former WWE guys. I know Ricochet was, and Swerve was too, but I feel like Swerve for sure has established his identity as AEW guy and not former WWE guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing is those trios titles are just sitting there.
Yeah.
Death Riders ain't defending them.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to expand the scope of this story, they need to defend those titles. If the Guns are healthy, I don't know if they're not. Bang Bang Gang should be contended for those. It's not what I'd really want them doing, but at least it would bring them into the story. Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah.
Going after those trios titles. I would not be shocked if Rated FTR wins those trios titles to feed into the Cope Mox match going into Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Do something with the trios titles.
Yeah. To me, that's like such a...
It is. It's a small thing, but if the initial idea behind this story was Mox and Death Riders were kind of the litmus test for AEW, and it feeds the other thing I have an idea is that just because Mox is champ and the rest of Death Riders are trios champions shouldn't preclude them from going after additional titles if they set the bar, especially like, hey, Garcia got wrapped up in things early with the Death Riders. He's TNT champion. Where's Claudio stepping up to him saying, oh, you think you reached the Death Riders bar now? You got to get through me.
Well, it goes back to when they, Mox basically lit a fire under Private Party. And it's like, hey, look what happened to them. They got the tag titles. Now they look like assholes because they have not changed at all. They simply won the tag title because the Young Bucks wanted to take some time off. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. And they're looking like assholes against, and I don't know why they're putting them in there with the Hurt Syndicate because they're looking like idiots now.
Yeah.
And why not? Look, if you're going to do an NWO thing, do an NWO thing. Have Private Party join them. So then Death Riders have the tag titles and you get it boggles my mind that like they do. And this is the problem. This is the main issue is big picture. They wanted a saga, but in order to have a true saga, you need to plan that shit out. You need to have a company-wide effect stemming from your story. Yep. And they simply don't have that. It is Death Riders Island.
Yep.
And it's kind of messy with who gets to the shores and who doesn't and who leaves.
Yeah.
And that's the main issue. It's such a big picture issue that then muddies the entire story.
It really
so
does.
Like people start dropping out. It's so wild. I've seen so many AEW fans on social media who are either going through mental gymnastics trying to say this is good stuff or just admitting it's no good. Mm-hmm. and to see them turn, and AEW is in such a weird, it's such a wild situation with AEW, because we see this venue last night and it held 1,500 people. They sold 1,500 tickets for a Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And yet World's End was like one of their best-selling pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Like they got, I think, well, the numbers aren't out yet, but I think it did it did under the All-In pay-per-view, which is like 140, I want to say, around there.
Yeah.
But it was beyond that. Like aside from that, it was like one of their better selling. So it's probably in the range of like 120,000.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy number when you think alternately of, like, for example, TNA. I'd never heard of any TNA pay-per-view like in their history of doing those kind of numbers. The pay-per-view numbers are off the charts. Mm-hmm. I was reading some stuff today about the about AEW's ticket strategy for selling like their live shows, and how it's like kind of a bizarre strategy. They have like a really short window of selling tickets, which apparently is like one way they're trying to fend off WWE from, like, you know, if AEW announced their tickets 3 months in advance and a month out, WWE decides to just run a house show there because they're, I don't know if you heard, but WWE's on fire. Sorry. But regardless, I don't know. I'm not, you know, I'm not WrestleTix, right? I'm not WrestleNomics.
Yeah.
But it's bizarre to me because, like, in some metrics, they're like fine. And in other metrics, it's a disaster.
Yeah,
it's really weird. It's just a really weird, such like, you can't get people to come to your show, but you can get them to plunk down 50. You can get a lot of people to plunk down $50 for a pay-per-view.
Well, that's one thing about AEW is that their pay-per-view buy rates have been fairly consistent. Mm-hmm. It's like they're usually over 100,000. Mm-hmm. Not all the time, but usually over 100,000, sometimes well over. So it seems like for their pay-per-views, they got about 100,000 people that seemingly at this juncture are guaranteed to plunk down $50 to watch the shows.
That's been steady for a while.
It has been very steady.
There's been no attrition on that end.
Not really, no.
Which is pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. But going back to the idea of one thing that we've had an issue with this story for the longest time is expanding the scope of it. And an easy way to do that is just have for all the members of Death Riders to go after all the different titles.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You know, why can't Pac go after the international title?
Mm-hmm.
He was the first champion, but it was the All-Atlantic title, you know? If they're there to set the bar for AEW, then the physical manifestation of that is championships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just not happening. It's all Mox, and everybody else in Death Riders are seemingly just henchmen for Mox, as opposed to people who will help him see out his vision, but performers in their own right.
Yeah. Yeah. With
goals and ambitions as well. And those goals and ambitions may align with Mox's vision, but we don't necessarily see that often enough.
Yeah. So it looks like TNA's highest pay-per-view buy rate was 2006. Bound for Glory, about 60,000. I think that was Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. And I mean, look, part of that, let's be honest, WWE was still under their pay-per-view system back then. So, like, I imagine, given that, you know, like, you can get all their pay-per-views on Peacock, whatever, now, internationally, Netflix now, that might, you know, I guess, free up some money for AEW fans, you know, for people who like both products. Maybe. Because I'm sure there are plenty of those still. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I don't know. They're in a weird spot right now. I like your ideas for Death Riders. You get an A, like an A- for those.
I don't know if it'll necessarily save it, but I think it might make it more palpable till Darby wins in July.
I think, dude, I just think that
I think that's the best you could hope for now, is to try to make this a bit more interesting till Darby comes back and wins in July.
Yeah. When the Cope match is probably going to be Revolution, right?
That's going to be the Revolution match, yeah.
So that's March 1st.
And then next would be Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing.
They'll probably have a special Dynamite.
Double or Nothing is, late May?
Yeah, it's usually Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, they'll have something in April. Either like
they'll have a special Dynamite or something, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So he'll probably have, what, like 4 more challengers between now and then? Cope being one of them. Who else do you think he's going to have a one-on-one with?
Joe.
What an underwhelming return last night. Uncle Donk here with a super chat says, I think the Don Callis family would have done a better job in the Death Rider story. Don Strong, Fletcher, and Takesh to make up a legit rebellious faction. Again, you know, it's just sort of like the cast they have is fine.
Yeah.
The cast they have is fine. It's what they do with them that matters. Anyways, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But first, Larson, let's go ahead and talk about the sponsor for today's show.
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break here. Get a word from our sponsor, DraftKings Pick 6. The NFL playoffs are here, Steve, with the wild card round in the books. Time is running out to play DraftKings Pick 6. As the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, DraftKings does fantasy sports like no one else.
And it's easy getting started with Pick 6. All you got to do is select 2 or more players and then choose if they're going to have more or less of a particular stat, like touchdowns, yardage, sacks, and more. And check this out. DraftKings is now making it even sweeter for first-time players. New Pick 6 customers play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits.
So win more cash on Pick 6. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code RAW. That's code RAW for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
All right, we're going to throw to Bill DraftKings right now for some disclosures. Here we go.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Thank you, Bill DraftKings. So anyways, last night on AEW, speaking of the Death Riders, the main event, I should say, saw Mox defending his AEW title against Powerhouse Hobbs. Mox continually finding new and interesting ways to bleed a lot. Last time it was like, it was like a giant wound in the back of his head.
Yeah.
This time seems like his ear
got ripped off.
Of some sort.
Because Hobbs was pulling on it and biting it.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty rough.
It was. He was bleeding all over the place, what Mox was. And again, it's another situation where Hobbs looked really good coming out of this match. He took a finisher, took a shot from the briefcase to the head, kicked out of both of those, got the pass-out loss, didn't tap, didn't get pinned. But it's another situation where it's another typical Mox match where the brawl goes into the crowd. You can almost, in advance of a Mox match, write down what's going to happen beat for beat.
Yeah.
Even down to the finish with all the interference from the Death Riders. And it's formulaic. And as I said earlier, Mox is not an interesting enough character to overcome the shortcomings of how his matches are booked.
Yeah.
Because he's going to show up next week or show up on Collision, spew out a bunch of word vomit that doesn't mean a whole lot because it sounds intriguing. And on to the next one. There's this huge, quote-unquote huge, 12-man tag match. I'm sure is going to main event Collision. They've made no effort, as far as I know, but I don't watch Collision, so I guess I shouldn't say that. At least on Dynamite last night, they made very little effort to explain why Mox would be cool teaming with Learning Tree, other than heels. And after the match, we get Death Riders attacking Hobbs, going after his previously injured leg. Cope and FTR taking their sweet time to run out to make the save until Hobbs basically has his leg broken.
Like, if you guys are so horny to battle the Death Riders, shouldn't you just be, like, waiting there for them?
Oh, as soon as the bell it rings to end the match, you're out there. Because you know what's going to happen at this point. Hobbs is one of your tag team partners on Saturday. It behooves you to make sure he goes into that match healthy.
Yeah, right, yeah. As soon as they start surrounding the ring, you guys just go out there. Yeah. They
should be right there behind the curtain waiting to go out there as soon as that match ends.
Yeah.
Because win or lose, Hobbs was going to get attacked after that match. And if you want to look out for your tag partner, if you want to be on the right side of things, you go out there immediately. You don't wait.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that's like a weird convention. It's not just an AEW thing. Sometimes they do that shit in WWE too. I mean, I don't know. In WWE these days, like mid-match, they introduce Triple H loves introducing the overbooking thing.
Yeah.
The bad guys, buddies come out, and then the good guys come out. They ward them off, and then you're just left with the last two guys. And then maybe there's one additional straggler to overbook things even further.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Mox retains. Again, it was a solid bout, and it was a good showing for Hobbs. And the hope is coming out of this, Hobbs would have some measure of momentum that they would then capitalize on. But this is AEW, and that's, since the inception of the company, has been a shortcoming of Tony Khan's, booking.
Where would you see Hobbs realistically? What do you think they're going to do with him next? Because like everybody else, okay, let's go to the last pay-per-view had that fatal 4-way, right?
Yeah.
Look at everybody else there. What's happening on Collision? Hangman and Christopher Daniels in a death match?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
And then you've got Jay White last night calling out both Roderick Strong and Wheeler Yuta for what happened in the Casino Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where's Orange Cassidy been? What's he been doing?
Maybe he's finally selling the effects of having Clorox poured down his throat.
He's like, I thought it was fine, but it turns out there might be some long-term
Apparently, I got a massive hole in my esophagus that needs to be addressed.
I got some nasty esophageal damage there. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him. So I don't know. It's like they want this to be the story that carries AEW, and it is far and away. Well, not far and away. It's one of the absolute least interesting things they're doing on the show.
It is. I mean, honestly, at this point, when I look at this breakdown, like there's not a lot that's actually in. They've managed to make a lot of stuff uninteresting.
I know.
Looking at the breakdown for this show, one of the things that is actually surprisingly kind of interesting, or at least I'm like, oh, this is cool, is Don Callis family stuff.
Yeah, no, they've turned that around, haven't they?
Yeah, because you've got Kenny Omega against Brian Cage, who's part of the Don Callis family. Brian Cage looking absolutely dapper these days with that wonderful beard and the thick head of hair, Larson.
Where again, like Karrion Kross, where's all this hair been?
This guy would be main eventing WrestleMania if he just did the hair beard combo from like day one.
Mm-hmm.
Who's this dapper fellow?
Mm-hmm.
And a killer wrestler to boot.
Yeah.
Hell of a match. Him and Kenny doing some crazy shit. Brian Cage is such a fun wrestler.
Yeah, he is.
It's just, man, talk about a dude who's really just needed, probably more than a lot of people. He needs like somebody to help him with that presentation.
I know.
Because I know he's a big comic book fan and everything, and I can appreciate that. But there's a way to do that kind of presentation, and I don't think he really ever figured that out. But in any event, the guy is a supremely fun wrestler to watch. So Kenny ends up getting the win. Not a surprise there with a one-winged angel. Talk about not having lost a step since he went out from diverticulitis. Oh, my God. Kenny's, boy, he's good.
He is good.
Anyways, after the ring, of course, Don Callis family stuff. Lance Archer gets in the ring, check on Cage, attacks Kenny. Kyle Fletcher comes in to join in. Will Ospreay comes out to make the save. Sends Kyle out of the ring. Archer looks for a choke slam, but Ospreay hits him with an ensiguri. Kenny follows with a V trigger. Ospreay lays out Archer with a hidden blade. Kenny and Will kind of argue because Kenny's like, I didn't need you. Ospreay's like, you did need me, mate. So Ospreay pushes Kenny aside, though, to boot Fletcher off the apron because Fletcher is trying to come in, hits him with a plancha. Takeshita shows up, holds the international title in Kenny's face. They start throwing hands. Fletcher slides into the ring, hits Kenny with a half suplex. Takeshita falls to the clothesline. Ospreay gets back in the ring, gets laid out by Fletcher and Takeshita. Fletcher and Takeshita hit Ospreay and Omega with a brainbuster and a Falcon Arrow. So that seems to be a tag team match happening.
Probably a Grand Slam, right?
Probably. That would make sense. I would think so. Also, unless they drop it, which is entirely possible, Kenny's got to be the guy for the international title, right?
I think so. You'd think so. It's looking that way.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. You'd think that'd be the Revolution match. You'd think so.
They could always drop it.
Completely. No, like the turnaround for Don Callis family has been interesting to see. It hasn't been that complicated, really. You put a title on Takeshita. You turn Fletcher heel. You got two really good wrestlers who are interesting characters. at the forefront of that faction. And that's not taking anything away from Lance Archer and Brian Cage.
Couple of good heavies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heaters. Yeah.
Two dudes who could put on incredibly fun matches.
Mm-hmm.
So you got your tag team, you got your two singles wrestlers, and you got the manager. I mean, it's come together pretty well.
I still maintain, though, that, and this applies to Don Callis' family as well, you need the logo, you need the T-shirt.
I know.
You know, there's something so, like, it's so just scratches that pro wrestling nerd itch. T-shirt and logo.
I know. I don't disagree.
Anyways.
I don't disagree. We had the first women's casino gauntlet match, as expected. Toni Storm won. Mariah May joined commentary. We had some cool surprises. Had Megan Bayne make her, I guess, Dynamite debut. She used to wrestle.
Highly touted free agent.
Yeah, she wrestled some on Dark and Elevation years ago. Presentation, 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah, she looked phenomenal. She
Her
looked great.
entrance attire is phenomenal.
Mariah was doing a hell of a job on commentary, too, and selling Megan Bayne as well.
Yeah.
It does seem also, man, Harley Cameron's new theme song. Harley Cameron is just, in general, a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Dude, I watched, there was I think it was a collision or a post-collision promo she did. God damn it, she's funny.
Yeah, she is.
She has got everything, man. She's got everything.
Yeah.
And she accidentally got misted by Julia, who was targeting Jamie Hayter. Seems like, however, they're not going to go the long route like you were advocating for with Toni Storm. She ended up getting a roll up on Julia Hart.
Yeah.
To get the win here, so she moves on to Grand Slam against Mariah May. Mariah May happy about this because she seems to think that Toni is not her former self.
Yeah. That Toni has forgotten everything about Mariah May, and Mariah's like, I'm facing rookie Toni Storm, who's completely unaware of the betrayal that happened just last year. Should be easy because Toni's offense during this gauntlet match was snapmare shoulder tackle.
Right, yeah.
That was the extent of it. It's like she's taken I'm a rookie in AEW to the logical direction of I'm doing basic moves, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought they might take their time with it a bit more so that Toni could essentially become a more seasoned wrestler before she got the title match. But maybe the situation led this title match. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe there's a story beat they're saving for Grand Slam, or either Toni reveals, this was all a way for me to get Mariah to lower her guard so I can take advantage and win the title back or something. I don't know. I don't know. In a sense, it seems kind of rushed, but I guess if they wanted to have Toni compete for the title at Grand Slam in Australia, then this had to happen, which makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm just waiting to see what they can do in the next month. I think it's exactly a month away to develop the story a bit more so we know where it's going.
Yeah. Also, I mentioned this earlier, Private Party and Mark Briscoe had a trios match against the Hurt Syndicate, MVP, putting on the tights again. And they
taking care of like the first half of this match by himself. It was like him and Mark Briscoe for the first half of this match, and MVP was dominating.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Let's see here. The win went to the Hurt Syndicate. Shelton Benjamin hit Mark Quinn with a German suplex, followed with a super kick to get the win. How is Private Party going to retain their titles over the Hurt Syndicate?
They're not.
You don't think this is the thing where they get they take the loss here so they get the win over the Hurt Syndicate?
For the audio crowd, I'm shaking my head. No.
Yeah, right. Go ahead and expand on that.
No. I mean, they're the Hurt Syndicate. They shouldn't lose at this point.
They shouldn't, but like, you don't think this math dictates that they're gonna? You think they're gonna win those tag titles? You're certain about that?
I'm like 95% certain. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Like, they didn't announce when the tag team title match was happening. There could be other matches. Like Isaiah Cassidy could face MVP or something, and Isaiah Cassidy wins that one. And therefore, the go-home math would favor Private Party. Or, there's a variety of ways they can have the go-home math favor Private Party because they haven't announced when the tag match is happening yet.
All right. Well, there you go. I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think there's like ways you could probably do that.
I'm sure. I mean, there are. I just don't see them happening.
Well, there you go. Ricochet. This was the most disappointing. Jesus.
Such a massive missed opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know about. Yeah, this is not the most disappointing segment, but this was up there.
No, but it's the largest missed opportunity on this episode.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
expectations for more Jeff Jarrett MJF promo battles were terribly high.
Boy, that was a chore to sit through. But let's talk about this first. So Ricochet shows up. He's all dapper in his suit. Trevor Man. He gets on the mic. Everybody starts chanting Swerve's house. Ricochet tries to quiet them. Tries to talk. He says, that's how it's going to be? Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. A picture throws to him. I'm sorry, he throws to a picture of Bloody Swerve from a couple weeks ago. That great segment where he just absolutely destroyed him. And then Swerve's music hits. Ricochet looks towards the ramp. He's going to throw hands with Swerve. But instead, Nana shows up behind him, and he blasts him with the chair and just starts doing his dance, which honestly was a hilarious visual. But that was kind of it. Then Swerve comes out with a chain, swings it at Ricochet. Ricochet evades, escapes through the crowd, leaves the venue. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It didn't escalate things at all.
This should have been a multi-segment story being told where you get one segment Ricochet shows up. I don't know. I'm not booking the thing. But I'm saying this should be a longer thing and there should have been something more to it.
There should have been, because at the end, Ricochet escapes through the crowd, Swerve chases after him, and Ricochet leaves through the exit. He leaves the venue. And Swerve kind of holds the door open for a bit, looks out, and then just walks back in. Why not have other segments of Swerve looking for Ricochet in Cincinnati?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Outside the venue, something like that. At the end of towards the end of the show, he comes back, promo, cuts a great promo talking about, oh, you got away from me this time, Ricochet, but you're not gonna get away from me next time because we're gonna have a match, and this is a stipulation.
So they
did book a match. They're gonna have a match in Atlanta in 2-3 weeks time
on Dynamite.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, that just feels like, don't you build to the pay-per-view?
I know, with a stipulation match.
Yeah. And maybe
Ricochet already busted open Swerve.
I mean, maybe they'll do a stipulation match at the pay-per-view after this Dynamite one. Maybe they'll wonk the finish there. I don't know.
Yep, that's entirely possible.
But yeah. And again, I've got faith in Swerve. This felt like a nothing segment.
I know.
It's like, you got the guys in the building. Why devote 20 minutes? Dude, that MJF, that is bizarre to me.
I know. Before we get to that, let's talk about Hook.
Okay.
He has a match against Christian. Of course, a bunch more interference here from Patriarchy. They actually cost Hook the match. He's got Christian in a red rum. Kip and Nick Wayne getting there. Break it up. Hook wins by DQ. So they're about to attack Hook with some chairs, perhaps a concerto. Taz was back on commentary. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he stands up. He's like, I can't take, I'm not going to sit here and watch this. Samoa Joe's music hits. He comes to the ring, makes the save for Hook. Shibata was there ringside with Hook too. So he and Joe clear the ring. It's great having Joe back, and I get him there helping Hook because Hook, Joe, and Shibata was a thing.
Yeah.
For a stretch. And actually, it was the one time where Hook was actually starting to show some interesting personalities when he was with Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
maybe
dude.
they could unlock that again. I don't know.
Again, it's one of those things where, and I'm not sitting here trying to fantasy book, but you've got a lot of really cool pieces. The idea of Joe versus Joe stepping up to Mox and being like, you're going about this, not trying to be like, oh, I'm going to be the future of AEW, because Joe's our age. But him stepping up to Mox saying, you're going about this the wrong way. Look at what I've done with Hook, even though Hook hasn't really done shit. But look at what I've done with Hook. He's better now.
Yeah.
And maybe you'd have to show some proof to that pudding. But
the idea that you don't set a violent bar that everybody else has to reach. You got to nurture.
You got to nurture. Yeah, Joe, the nurturing type.
Yeah.
But yeah, have him and Shibata confront.
Yeah, that's
the
more
Death
interesting
Riders.
than what they're doing with Cope.
There should be stuff there. I don't know. Jesus Christ, man. I can't believe when I saw these notes, I was like, you really, you.
I didn't. This isn't everything, though.
This is a lot.
This isn't everything.
It's a lot.
This is most of it.
You wrote down a lot.
So Double J comes to the ring.
Oh,
and
God.
he's says, the last few weeks have been humbling. MJF interrupts him, says, you don't know what the definition of humbling is. And he goes on. He talks a bunch of crap about Jeff Jarrett.
It's just he's going as low of a road as possible, talking about his Jeff Jarrett's wife.
Well, that being a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah.
Says so many times the last image you have of Jeff Jarrett is when your favorite wrestling company dies.
Right, which is, again, I know people have pointed out the irony of him saying that in front of in a venue with 1,500 people for your cable TV show.
Yeah.
And that venue really did illustrate just it looks so like the people, you could just see how few people there were there.
I know. It was a cool looking venue in terms of character.
It was, yeah.
It had a Thunderdome feel because the audience was right on top of the ring, seemingly.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But it did feel very small.
It did. Well, when you go, the camera goes low and then you can see there's a person.
Also,
5 people.
I understand they're limited to where they can put the hard cam based on the geography of the venue. Having the hard cam on the stage facing the ring with commentary in the background threw me off. And there were so many times where people were standing on the stage and they were blocking what was happening in the ring.
Yeah, right.
I get it. You're confined to what you can do based on the geography of the venue. At the same time, it's oh gosh, this is too much. Anyways, so Jeff Jarrett decides, if Max goes low, I'm going to go lower, essentially. And talks about how getting in the Owen tournament kind of reignited his passion for wrestling. And then talked a bunch of shit about MJF's parents. And then said that his girlfriend, while he was going 60 minutes with Ospreay in the ring, his girlfriend was going 60 minutes with about 10 wrestlers. And it is just one cringe line after another here. And this is
yeah.
The beginning of it was all right, this is basic MJF stuff, whatever. But once Jeff Jarrett tried to match Max blow for blow with the low-hanging fruit stuff, it was painful.
Here's the funny. This is also the thing that I don't think Jeff Jarrett wanted to do this shit. Just there are certain little cues that I was like, oh, this is not his favorite.
Another thing is the whole time when MJF was talking shit to him, his whole thing is I've been rock bottom. Anything you do or say to me, I've done and handled before. So whatever. Is that Jeff's just laughing through it all?
Mm-hmm, yeah, right.
He's in the ring there laughing through it all.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all right, is this... I get your point, Jeff, but at the same time, it's none of this affects you until he starts talking about Karen. That's when it gets to him.
Mm-hmm, yeah. It's just...
I don't know, that's kind of undercut it.
You're right, though. It's just one cringe. And I'll be honest, again, talking big picture, I'm like, what the fuck is this even? What is the point of this? What does this do for anybody? Is Jeff Jarrett going to beat MJF? That's the only thing that would kind of make sense here. And if MJF beats Jeff Jarrett, then okay, who cares? Jeff Jarrett's 1,000,000 years old.
Yeah.
What's the point of it?
I know.
Who gets anything out of this except maybe if Jeff Jarrett beats the former world champion MJF, the longest world champion MJF.
Up until last night, hey, we were huge Jeff Jarrett cheerleaders.
Yeah, sure.
That being said, unless they have some way they can do it to advance the story and it's of a fluke nature, in no way should Jeff Jarrett beat MJF.
I agree.
It shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I know. A one-legged MJF beat Jay White at full strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this does. So anyways, this ends with what? Jeff Jarrett attacking MJF because he made an Owen Hart reference.
Well, he's made Owen references and started talking about Karen.
And then at one point, Karen comes in and tries to separate Jeff off of MJF, and then MJF grabs her as if Jeff Jarrett is holding a gun to him or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got her hostage. Then he drops her and leaves.
Yeah.
And it's what?
Yeah.
What is that shit? Who fucking who like? Why is Tony Khan back? Oh, this was a great idea.
I feel like Tony Khan really likes Christian and likes Jeff Jarrett, and because he likes them, either as human beings or as performers, he wants to see him on TV a lot, and it books them in prominent role now for Jeff Jarrett, especially prominent role.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I mean, I think you're probably right. You're probably right about that, but like, don't you look at the meat of what they're about to do and be like, this isn't the best use. This is probably not the best tact.
I mean, yeah, that's what you should do, but maybe it's a situation where Tony Khan is like, oh, hey, Jeff, this might be your last story, so let's go out there and let's go all out on it.
Yeah.
Get you in there with Max, and Max will do his thing, and you can counter him best you want, as much as you feel comfortable doing, but Max he's gonna bring it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. The whole thing was bizarre.
Because like if they want to do the story of Jeff Jarrett, the last outlaw going on his last run, that's fine. That shouldn't take up 15 minutes of the show.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a side story that's going on at this point.
Yeah.
And again, you build up to it. At some point he gets the title shot. Mox murders him.
Mm-hmm.
You do it because the thing about segments like this, the whole point of Jeff Jarrett doing this is to try to engender some measure of support from the fan base. Segments like this do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Because they overstay their welcome, they're cringy, and now, saw it on social media, a lot of people don't want Jeff Jarrett on their TV.
People already like one thing I noticed, the AEW fan base, they're like, oh yeah, AEW is great. But then when Jeff Jarrett's brought up, they're like, mm-mm. Like, yeah. He was already faced kind of an uphill battle.
He was. And you do stuff like this, and it makes that uphill battle all the steeper.
It's like if you lose Steven Larson, then you got a problem here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we also had some a little Mercedes Moné vlog, a day in the life of a CEO. So like, everybody hit that sub and like button. This is what a day in the life of Mercedes Moné is. And
media appearances, shopping,
wrestling training.
That's kind of it.
This cracked me up because I texted you. I was like a little bit ahead of you in the broadcast because I was watching live and you were watching live, but I was a little bit ahead.
Yeah, I did pause a few times.
And like they literally threw to this video package. It was like, we're going to talk now about why FTR and Cope like each other so much. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was basically that. And I was like, oh my God, they're doing a video package about how FTR and Cope have good chemistry. Yeah. And it was like 30 seconds long.
It was super short.
He was like, they're my neighbors.
Yeah.
and then like a couple shots of them hugging.
Yeah, they do it like doing the media scrum after the last show and stuff.
Yeah, right. They're my neighbors. We like each other, and hug, and then out.
Then we had a video package fallout from the Casino Gauntlet match, and that's when Jay White was calling out Wheeler and Roderick. And
Roderick Strong, yeah, Bang Bang Gang. We're gonna get it on, man. Oh, also Wheeler Yuta. Who am I gonna fight first? I don't know. Who knows?
So is he Mr. Deltoid from?
Yes, Wheeler Yuta. Yes, Alex.
We got an Okada Ishii video package.
Wasn't that always my Jay White impression, Mr. Deltoid?
Oh, maybe.
I swear to God, I've done that before.
Maybe. So Ishii showed up on Collision, challenged Okada to a Continental title match. So there's a bit of a history video package here. And then we got this New York Minute bullshit with Chris Jericho where he's trying to get people excited about this 12-man tag match on Collision.
This is kind of funny because what's his face, Curse. I didn't mind this particular one because at least Jericho was like, people are all over the place asking, why am I teaming up with Mox? And he was like, Mox, I'm going to show you that we're on the same page. And I was like, page? Is there something significant about Page? About a Hangman head? Well, I don't know. This line was in that FTR thing. JMC says, I love family, God, and Cope. Dak said that shit. Oh, I love my family, I love God, and I love Cope.
Where's Bret Hart in that equation?
Yeah, where's Bret? Where's CM Punk?
Yeah, where's Phil?
Phil ain't answering my calls anymore, so now I love family. Now my power rankings, they shifted. I love family, God, and then Cope.
So it's like a list. Family, God, and first it's Hangman, crossed out. Or sorry, first it's Hitman, crossed that out. CM
crossed
Punk,
that
out, and now it's Cope.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Before we get to our NXT recap, we can talk about this. This is in the news today. It's made official now. NXT, TNA, multi-year partnership to work together. TNA talents on NXT, NXT talents on TNA. Expect a lot more Joe Hendry showing up on NXT television, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're going to send their best and brightest. We saw on Tuesday Masha Slamovich in the crowd.
Yeah, that
the
was
Knockouts champion. She's awesome. We're going to see Joe Hendry. Hopefully they can send some of their dudes over to job to Obafemi, like Josh Alexander, perhaps. Maybe we'll get Moose versus Obafemi. Over there on TNA, we'll get names like Dante Chen. Like maybe we'll get a Ren Sinclair, but that's kind of pushing it. She's really
Charlie
popular.
Dempsey was on TNA, so I don't think it's
Charlie Dempsey's he had a speed match with Chad Gable.
He did.
That's still WWE, but I kind of want to check out that match.
Yeah. The question is, who's going to get an extended program with Werewolf Ed Edwards?
I'm hoping for two names. Brooks Jensen, number one, kind of has werewolf vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, throw your ones up for the Lex offenders. I want Lex's King to defend the Heritage Cup, and he just keeps on accidentally hitting people in the balls.
Okay.
That's what I want to see.
You want him to reference was it Monster Squad where they hit the Wolfman in the balls?
Holy shit, what a great reference. That was good, man. That was
I just
really
thought
good.
of something. I would not be shocked if we get the Hardys in NXT to take on Fraxium now.
Wow. What's their next big show? Is it the Valentine's
They got
one?
Genesis. TNA's got Genesis coming up soon.
Oh, you think they're going to do that there? I think they're probably there.
No, I'm not saying they're going to do it at the show. I'm just saying that.
I'm sorry. I meant what's the next big NXT show?
Oh, that is Vengeance Day?
Vengeance Day. That's the February one.
February, yeah.
Oh, I could see that shit happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep.
Wolfman's got nards.
Yeah.
Clown said it. Wolfman's got nards. Nards.
All right, we watched NXT too. Bailey was in NXT, and seemingly maybe to set up Roxanne's main roster call-up.
Could be, yeah, or at least like the start of it. These days they just do everything so slowly. It's like she'll be sort of showing up there, also showing up at NXT, maybe TNA, who knows, and then she'll get drafted, and then she'll actually be on the show.
Well, I mean, kind of the idea. I mean, they almost kind of seemed like Roxanne was saying goodbye to an extent about how that. It could be construed as, what is the women's division going to look like now I'm not champion, but also, what is the women's division going to look like now that I'm not here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, yeah.
It was kind of vague in that sense, and then Bailey interrupts, says, Roxanne, you're at a bit of a crossroads in your career. You either act like you are right now or adapt to the situation and learn from it.
Yeah.
They go back and forth a bit more. And then Roxanne says, Bailey, you're just like Italian Punk. You're out here saying the same things they did, and that shows that you're just like everyone else I used to look up to. Says, you think NXT owes you something. You set records, but I broke them. Let's face it, you were my role model, but I think I could be yours now. And Bailey says, the difference between you and me is that you're stuck in NXT all alone while I'll be at Mania after I win the title this Friday from Tiffany. So they start fighting. So I don't know if it's a situation where they're going to do Roxanne and Bailey at Mania, which would be huge.
Oh my God, that'd be huge. That'd be massive, yeah.
But that'd be a great idea. I'd be all on board with that. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'd definitely be on board with that. Or they're going to try to juice some tickets for Vengeance Day and have Bailey versus Roxanne Perez there instead. Is Vengeance Day a premium live event? Or is that just an episode?
I think that's a premium live event.
I would think so. At the very least, they're going to be
check.
out on the road for that one.
Oh, yeah, it's in Washington, D.C., so I'm sure that on Saturday, February
Oh, if it's
15th,
a Saturday, that's a premium live event. What day is it? February what now?
15th.
15th? Okay, 2 weeks after the Rumble then. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Also, the Oba era began, and it began in a huge way with his first challenger being revealed. And that challenger is Eddie Thorpe, who, after Tony D faced off, so Obafemi, he opens the show with a promo. He says, Destiny. This was hilarious because he did an impersonation of wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And he said, destiny will always arrive. He says, just like I have arrived, it's time for me to take my rightful place upon the throne. He says, many a man will win a prize, such as it. So I'm going to do his accent just really quick, and then I'm going to do his impression of wrestling fans. He says, many a man will win a prize such as this and say, I never thought I could do it, but he did it dead on. Because he's faking the accent, so he just did a normal dude accent.
So last week, an interview he did when he was on Level Up before, like pre-breakout tournament.
Yeah.
Did an interview and I watched it, and yeah, no accent.
No accent, Obafemi. Yeah, this dude for
Yeah.
20 years. Because this is not going to be a Kofi situation where he gets to drop it. He is saddled with this accent, which is fine. He probably knows plenty of people. It's probably a very accurate representation of his homeland. Anyways, he says, I always believed I could do it because since day one, I told everybody I was backed by destiny. He says, I was backed by density when I won the breakout tournament. When I became the longest reigning North American champion, I was backed by destiny when I became NXT champion. All of this is mine now. It belongs to the ruler. And I'm going to rule how I see fit. But let's talk about Trick. Put a lot of hard work into this, but just like every other guy back there, Trick has a ceiling. I've got no ceiling. Ceiling, no way for Oba. He says, with regards to Eddie, he's a rat, a cockroach that won't die. But Eddie, I'm going to issue my first and final warning. You can annoy someone else in this locker room. So he's interrupted by Tony D. And Tony's like, hey, as far as the Don considers it, it's 2-1. He's like, I got 2 over you, and you got no wins over me. And
He's got 1 win.
One win.
Yeah.
Oba responds. He's like, hey, last week you got your ass dropped by Santa Claus. So apparently last week it was, Ridge Holland got dressed up like Santa Claus. That wasn't last week.
That wasn't last week. It had to be
3 weeks. It probably meant last month, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Anyways, that brings out Ridge Holland. Tony D goes and attacks him. And as Oba is watching the melee unfold, Eddie Thorpe attacks him from behind and then stands over him with the title. Later on, Obafemi storms into Ava's office, says, I'm going to eliminate Eddie next time I see him. I want a shot at Eddie Thorpe. And Ava's like, I'm not going to reward his behavior. And Stone's like, hey, Oba, big fella. Eddie's playing like a fiddle. Oba lifts up Stone up against the wall. And he's like, if I want Eddie, I get Eddie. And Ava's like, look, this is a lot of fun right now, but please put him down. You get your match against Eddie.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then later on, Dion Lennox steps up to Oba and is like, hey, I'm going to challenge you for that title someday. Oba basically laughs at him.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So he walks. Camera pans over to Sean Spears and Rizzo talking. Spears says to Rizzo, you think Tony really cares about you? Izzy Dame steps in. And she says, no one gives a damn about you, Spears. And that includes Rizzo. No one needs you. So he leaves. And then Rizzo tells Izzy, I had that under control. I need your help. So Izzy walks away. And then camera stops with Carmen and Ashanti. Ashanti gives Carmen a rose. Love connection is forged.
Yeah, man. I need a love connection. I can appreciate with NXT. One thing that I absolutely appreciate with NXT, nothing really falls through the cracks there. Like, there's like 5 different stories, none of which I particularly care about, but I will get them. And it might be in a 15-second backstage thing. They will continue these stories on fucking rain or shine, man.
Yeah, they follow through.
They do.
Follow through.
They really do. Like, everything is addressed every week.
Yeah.
Later on, Eddie Thorpe drops like an IG, like a really out of breath. He's like in the parking lot. He's like,
it's like us halfway through our first game of Full Court.
But it's like ages later. He's like, oh man, that was so good. Like, what, did you just crank it in your car or something? What are you doing, man? Calm down. Catch your breath before you do one of these, dude.
Yeah, I know. Did he sprint all the way from the Performance Center to like downtown Orlando?
Yeah. He's like, oh man, but took that bait. Oh God. Shout out to Ava for making this match happen. almost makes her makes up for her calling me a liar last week. God, so out of breath. He says, soon enough, all's going to be well when I'm crowned the new NXT champ. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? You can't even get a speed match.
Yeah. A match happens next week. We got a video package about Julia winning the NXT Women's title at New Year's Evil. After also, I'm not sure about this decision. Stephanie Vacour takes on Shotzi. So last week, Stephanie won a 4-way match, became number 1 contender for the Women's North American
Was
title.
it explicit
Yes.
for the number 1 contendership?
Yes.
That's what I remember too.
And then in a tag match later on last week, Shotzi happened to pin Fallon Henley, who is the Women's North American champion. So Shotzi went to Ava, was like, I pinned the champion, shouldn't I be number 1 contender? And Fallon was there. It's like, y'all take care of it. And then Ava's like, well, Stephanie and Shotzi, you'll wrestle. Who gets the next shot? So Stephanie's still officially number 1 contender, but the winner of this match would be next in line to get a title match. So I guess there's kind of 2 number 1. Anyways, Fallon cost Stephanie the match. Shotzi wins with a roll up. It's prolonging the inevitable.
Yeah.
Fallon will beat Shotzi, and at Vengeance Day, Stephanie will beat Fallon.
That's exactly why they did it this way, to prolong it till the pay-per-view, because of the premium live event. Because that's, what do we say? That's a month from now.
Yeah.
So, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not huge on Stephanie losing to anybody. I like Shotzi well enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like Stephanie getting pinned. Fun match though. It was a fun match.
Yeah, it was. It was a fun match. Cora Jade has beef with Kalani Jordan because of the number 1 contender match. Says it wasn't for Kalani. Cora says she'd be number 1 contender, so that leads to a match.
Kalani's got to be getting that call up soon.
You'd think so.
Because she did the North American title run, and now they're just kind of jobbing her out.
Yeah. Yeah. So they did this cool thing where Cora says, I'd be number 1 contender if it wasn't for you, and I'll promise you right now, I'm going to win a title before you do. So Kalani slaps her. We go to picture-in-picture during a commercial break, and they follow Stephanie backstage while she's looking for Fatal Influence because she's pissed.
This was a cool picture.
This was cool.
Yeah.
And so she finds them, I think, in like hair and makeup, lays them out, continues walking backstage, hella pissed off. Ethan Page walks up to her, like tries to cheer her up, kind of. But then camera follows him as he makes his entrance.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's the second week in a row they've done something interesting with the picture-in-picture situation.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Well, then later on, Cora defeats Kalani with Masha Slamovich sitting in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Cora gouges Kalani in the eyes, hits DDT for the win.
Yeah. We had Ethan Page backstage boasting about having a nervous promo there with The Rock, and that led to a match. He was talking shit. Dante Chen, who really has no reason to be talking shit to anybody, talks shit to Ethan Page.
You can't talk shit to Lexis King because he's beat Lexis King twice.
There you go. Yeah, well, maybe he should go after Lexis King's Heritage Cup title, and Lexis King will accidentally hit him in the balls, in the nards. Anyways, Ethan Page took on Dante Chen, and instead of winning the match, oh no, he actually did win. He won after.
Oh, he wrecked him. It was quick.
Yeah, he did. He did, but then he wrecked him some more.
Finish to win.
Yeah, he wrecked him some more. Took off his boot, wedged it between the ring and the steps, and then kicked the shit out of the steps. This is a really effective segment here.
It was.
Javon Evans runs in, starts to lay in a Page, but then Ethan punches him in the jaw, and Evans starts like bleeding from the mouth. So their feud continues. That's a pretty decent feud they got going there.
Yeah, it is. It is. We had Lash and Jakara face Unholy Union, determine the next number 1 contenders for the women's tag titles. Lash and Chikara get the win after hitting Alba Fire with their finisher. I don't believe, did they say when that tag title match was happening?
I don't think so.
I don't remember either.
I don't think so.
Firaxium also defended their tag titles against OTM in a really fun match. Before the match happened, though, DIY was there to watch. Maybe Firaxium's getting called up. Maybe they do the idea that I pitched where they're still tag champs and they get called up. So they have to moonlight between main roster and.
That's their entire story, and then they start diving into the singles divisions on main roster. They have like 3 matches an episode of, they're like,
I
show
think
up on
that'd be great.
SmackDown, 3 matches. Show up on Raw, 3 matches. Speed, 3 matches.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, me too. More Fraxium, better.
Exactly. So Ciampa says they're there to watch Fraxium. People are saying that Fraxium's the best tag team in NXT history. And Gargano says, we'll see Fraxium at some point. So I called my buddy Heartbreak, got some tickets for us to see what they're all about. And Ciampa's like, but we're not here to create any problems. So later on, Briggs and Inamura walk up to Fraxium. And Briggs is like, hey, we saved you last week. That should have got your attention. Yet OTM gets this next title shot. Hopefully we got your attention now. We got next. So OTM walks up and says, after Night Fraxium, not even going to be champs. We've been chasing gold since we got here. When we get it, we're not giving it up. Leads to a brawl between Briggs and Inamura and OTM. And again, OTM challenges Fraxium. Really fun match. Fraxium gets the win. Frazier puts Lucian Price through a table with a frog splash. And then Axiom hits Bronco Nima. Spanish fly off the top rope. Follows with golden ratio to get the win.
This is going to be absolutely devastating when Fraxium finally loses those titles. Because, this isn't a normal, victory. They're telling the story of them just killing themselves, including Axiom putting the frog splash through the table bit. It's like, I love it. I think it's so great.
It's probably the best story they got going in NXT right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, next to this next bit where Charlie Dempsey gets another Heritage Cup rematch. So Lexus King, one's up for Lex offenders, watches as his nameplate gets put on the Heritage Cup trophy. He's like, yeah, that's never coming off, which is true because they don't come off. They're just on there.
Yeah, they have the entire championship lineage on the trophy, yeah.
Ava congratulates him, says, Lex is like, yeah, this cup represents 4 whole months of hard work and dedication. And then Charlie and Ren Sinclair step in. And Dempsey's like, yeah, congratulations, you finally did it. And Ren's like, dude, what are you talking about? You need a rematch. He hit you in the nards. And Charlie's like, nope, no excuses. I know he got me in the nards. Lex is like, yeah, the nard shot was an accident. And Ren's like, listen, do you hear that? Rematch. And Ava's like, yeah, I hear that. Rematch. Agree. Rematch there is. And then there's a commotion behind them. And Ava goes outside and sees Ridge Holland and Tony D brawling in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. That was NXT.
Mm-hmm. That is NXT. So there you go. Anyways, I got a couple of question threads here, man.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and answer some questions.
This is a good one from Jeremy Marquez. What are your thoughts on Omos's Noah excursion so far? Love it.
I've only seen clips on social media.
Same. Love it though.
But so far, I like what I see.
Tag champ. It's seemingly a really good opportunity for him to go on an excursion, if you will. WWE wasn't doing anything with him. So, all I've seen so far has been awesome. Hopefully when he comes back, they'll have something for him and give him an opportunity to showcase his personality.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, huge dude, which was his character before.
Yeah. No, I always liked Omos, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Joe the Meme Maker says, if you could change a song in a movie to be a wrestling theme instead, what would it be? I would change from Rocky 3, Eye of the Tiger, to Ridge Holland's theme song. I think it would fit. I think it would fit. It's a killer theme song.
It's a pretty good theme. Let me see.
Bing.
Trying to think of something, a good use of the Undisputed Era theme.
How about you change Ivan Drago's entrance music? No, even better. You replace Living in America when Apollo Creed comes out.
Yeah, faces.
When he faces Ivan Drago for what was supposed to be an exhibition.
I know.
You change it to the Undisputed Era theme.
Okay.
Living in America is a killer song.
Fantastic.
Just a killer song.
Fantastic. Nate Cruz says, at what point do guys start to create their own vortex? Nate says, worried MJF is getting there.
Oh, jeez, yeah, dude. Oh man, I don't know. When they've been around too long, they're still really heavily featured and they aren't doing anything new.
Yep.
And they just sort of suck other wrestlers up into their vortex.
Simply because Tony Khan wants to give that particular wrestler significant TV time.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of coming up with something interesting, it was like, well, I want MJF to have 15 minutes on TV, so he gets 15 minutes on TV.
AJ Otani asks, what wrestler in any company will have the next short/transitional title run?
Oh, I feel like there's an obvious answer here.
Station to station. What you got?
Sorry, Seth. Maybe if he beats Gunther at Mania just to drop the belt to Punk at SummerSlam.
Sorry, Seth.
Sorry, Seth. That might be my new favorite in-joke now. Sorry,
Yeah, I know.
Seth.
Me too. I know. Michael Scalmanini with the news that David Lynch moved on.
Bummer.
What's your favorite David Lynch project?
Great question.
That is a great question. It's hard to choose. I remember, dude, my introduction to David Lynch was as a child. I had a sleepover at a friend's house. I was probably, I want to say I was probably 10. Maybe I was as young as 9. And it was late. Their parents went to bed. His parents went to bed. And we turned on the TV and Blue Velvet was on. And it was at the beginning of the movie where dude finds an ear in the field. And I was like, what is this? And we watched most of it. Mm-hmm. That's a spicy ass movie right there. Mm-hmm. You have Dennis Hopper with the oxygen mask and everything. Mm-hmm. A lot of crazy shit going on in that movie, like any David Lynch movie would be.
Yeah.
So I've got a special place in my heart for that. You have to appreciate his first one, Eraserhead. He made that movie over the course of like 7 years or something crazy like that. Yeah. The dedication and strength of vision in that movie. Mm-hmm. So those are two. Mulholland Drive stands out.
Yeah, Mulholland Drive's great. That was kind of his comeback movie. In
crazy ass movie. Yeah,
that's a good one.
So those are the ones that really stand out for me.
Yeah.
Just a singular artist, man.
Oh, absolutely. David Lynch movie is unmistakable.
Yeah, it really is.
As soon as one of his films come on, you can pretty much tell instantly that's a David Lynch movie.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What do we want? Time travel. When do we want it? That's irrelevant. Says, as AEW is doing a 12-man tag for Collision, what do you think is the maximum number of people who should be in a tag team? 6 competitors per team is too many, I feel like.
So you think 5 is a limit?
I think 4. 4 is, I think, kind of like tops for me. Because you get 6 on each side, then there's just not a whole lot of room.
No, there isn't. Because
they all got to stay within, 18 inches?
Yeah.
From that piece of string they got hanging in the corner that you're supposed to be within range of to get a legal tag in?
That's a good point. I want to say I've seen good 10-man tag matches, so I'd probably say 5 is my limit as well. My Spirit Animals Dorito says, aside from Io Sky, which female wrestler has the best intro music? Julia Hart's is really good.
Yeah, Julia Hart's up there. Asuka, not the remake, her original.
Asuka's original is classic.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is a tough question. Timor here asks, which AEW wrestler do you think has lost the most star power due to their booking?
MJF.
Yeah.
One of them. But honestly, dude, that's a...
Take your pick.
It is kind of a take your pick situation.
Gosh, yeah. There's so many.
Let's see here. Jules Abril says, I found that the only way to enjoy AEW for me is to treat it like what it is. It's PWG with the WWE budget. Do you guys agree? No, it does not have the energy of PWG shows. Having been to 2 PWG shows, and having seen plenty on Twitter, it does not have the energy of a PWG show. It's not even booked like PWG either, because PWG was a monthly show.
Kelmiko here asks, which AEW talent would have the best Mania entrance? Options are Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Timeless Tony Storm, or Okada.
It's a tie between Kenny and Tony at this point. because Kenny still, like, he did with the video game composer for his new theme. It's really big. It's really epic. He looked huge at the Tokyo Dome. And then Timeless Tony could have something really, really big. Like, you think of the Hollywood stage that they had.
Yeah.
They could recreate something like that for her.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be most interested in seeing WWE's production behind Kenny, though.
Yeah, that'd be something else. Creamy Beef Tip says, since the learning tree always says brevity is the soul of wit, what is the kayfabe reason Jericho doesn't take his own advice and shorten his TV time from 30 minutes to 0?
Because he's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Lord Blake Whitehouse says, what do you think the reaction would be if Corey Graves signed with AEW as a wrestler? He'd be Keenan Sterling? Wasn't that his name? Sterling
Yeah,
Keenan,
so.
something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
It's like a Tool reference, I think.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. It'd make waves for like 2 weeks, and then he would kind of get lost in the shuffle like a lot of people in AEW.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Like, the reaction would be... I don't know that it would do AEW many favors. Let me put it that way. I think they need to work on who they have now.
Yeah.
Unless they were to sign Enzo. That would, I think...
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
AEW devil in the room.
Yeah, bada bing, bada boom. Oh, a couple of haters? Hey, Big Bill. Why you hanging out with the couple of haters? Can't teach that.
What else do you got?
This is a good one from G Bonkers, which this might be a first-time question because I don't remember ever saying the name G Bonkers. I love that name, though. Am I the only one that can't take Jeff Jarrett serious? Not in a bad way. I just see him as a really nice guy, so his trash talk to MJF doesn't feel authentic. I think that was supposed to be the point, is Jeff Jarrett's not that guy. Mm-hmm. Like, using the phrase call girl instead of any of the other much, more vulgar names you could use for that concept. I think that's the point. Isn't that he was being genuine, is that, hey, Max, anybody could do this. It's easy.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is not difficult.
Yeah.
So I think that was the point. That was how I read it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that.
I just think that wasn't the way to go.
Even that being said, there is a level of conviction kind of missing from his delivery, because it felt like the point was understood, but it wasn't necessarily like he still felt comfortable doing it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It would have been, I don't know. I don't think there was any way to properly do that concept. I just don't. So anyways, that's all the questions I have here.
I think we covered pretty much everything else on the show, so.
Okay, cool. Right on. Well, that's going to do it for the show today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow morning. We've got a live premiere on YouTube with our latest episode of Count Out. And then later on, of course, we've got our live SmackDown review right after SmackDown. So be sure to hang out with us for that. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Until next time, we'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.